The laughter came in waves. It rolled through the leather booths and polished wood of the lounge like a slow tide, gathering momentum each time the man in the white thobe opened his mouth. Gold cufflinks flashed as he gestured, his movements expansive, confident. The kind of confidence that came with private jets and eight-figure deals closed over handshakes. The Hell Angel sat at the bar. He hadn't moved in 20 minutes, hadn't looked up from his drink. His leather vest was road-worn, patches faded from years under the sun and desert wind. His hands, scarred knuckles, calloused palms, rested flat on either side of his glass. A thick beard, dark and streaked with gray, covered the lower half of his face. His head was shaved clean, catching the amber light from above. He could have been a statue, but everyone knew he was listening. The Saudi businessman, because that's what the locals had whispered when he'd walked in, had been holding court for the better part of an hour. This wasn't his usual scene, too far from the coastal cities, too working class. But he was in town for a private investment meeting, and his entourage had chosen this place specifically. Authentic, one of them had said. The kind of spot where real Americans drank, where the wood was worn and the stories were rough, where men like the Hell Angel came to be left alone. But the businessman didn't do quiet. You see, he said, his English perfect but accented, the problem with most people in this country, they think freedom means doing nothing. Riding around. No plan. No structure. He swirled his glass of sparkling water with lime. Freedom without discipline is just chaos. One of his companions, a younger man in an expensive suit, American, probably a fixer or consultant, nodded eagerly. That's real talk. Of course it is, the businessman said, his tone patient, like he was explaining something obvious to a child. He glanced toward the bar. Just briefly. Just enough. You look at someone like that, and you think, what has he built? What legacy does he leave? The word legacy hung in the air. The biker didn't react, didn't turn, didn't shift his weight. Just lifted his glass, took a slow sip, and set it back down in the exact same spot. One of the women in the group, tall, elegant, wearing a silk headscarf and designer sunglasses pushed up on her head, leaned forward. Do you think he understands what you're saying? The businessman smiled. Not cruel, just certain. Perhaps. Perhaps not. It doesn't matter. More laughter. Softer this time, but it carried. The kind that made the bartender, a woman in her 50s with ink up both arms, look up sharply. She caught the biker's eye, raised an eyebrow. A silent question. You good? He nodded once. Barely. She moved down the bar, jaw tight. The businessman stood, stretching slightly, rolling his shoulders like a man who'd been sitting too long. He was tall, well-built, the kind of frame that came from disciplined gym routines and controlled diets. He walked toward the bar with the ease of someone who'd never been refused entry anywhere. He stopped 3 feet from the Hell Angel. "Excuse me, my friend," he said. His tone was polite, almost warm. "May I ask you something?" The biker turned his head, slowly. His eyes were dark, unreadable beneath heavy brows. He didn't speak. The businessman took that as permission. "Do you ever think about what you could have been?" he asked. "If you had made different choices? If you had, how do you say applied yourself?" The lounge had gone quiet, not silent. There was still the low hum of music, still the clink of glasses, but the conversations had stopped. People were watching now, pretending not to. The Hell Angel studied him for a moment. Then he turned back to his drink. "I'm serious," the businessman continued, resting one hand on the bar. "I'm not trying to offend you. I am genuinely curious. You look like a man who has seen things, lived. But here you are, in this place, wearing that vest. And I wonder, did you ever want more? Or is this enough?" Still nothing. The elegant woman appeared at the businessman's side. "Khalid, leave him." "I'm not bothering him," Khalid said smoothly. "I'm engaging. There is a difference." The Hell Angel exhaled slowly through his nose. His fingers tightened slightly around his glass. Not a fist, just tension. Khalid smiled. "You see? He's thinking." "That's good." One of the other men from the group, older, gray-haired, wearing traditional Saudi dress, approached. "Khalid, come, let's sit." But Khalid was locked in now. He'd found his stage. "You know what I think?" he said, voice dropping to something almost intimate. "I think men like you, Men who live outside the system, you tell yourselves you are free, that you don't play the game because you are too smart, too authentic. But the truth, he tapped the bar with one manicured finger. The truth is you simply couldn't compete. The bartender stopped moving. Her hand froze mid-wipe. The Hell Angel's shoulders rose slightly. A breath held. Khalid leaned in closer. And that's fine. Really, the world needs men like you. Someone must fill the bottom so men like me understand how high we have climbed. Then he did something that changed the entire room. He turned to his entourage and spoke in Arabic. Fast, fluid, confident. The words rolled off his tongue with the casual arrogance of a man who assumed no one around him could understand. He gestured toward the biker as he spoke, his tone dripping with mockery. His group erupted. Real laughter this time, unguarded and sharp. The woman covered her mouth, eyes bright with shock and delight. The American consultant shook his head, grinning wide. The older man tried to suppress a smile, but failed. Khalid straightened, clearly pleased with himself. He glanced at the Hell Angel, waiting for the confusion. For that lost, embarrassed look people get when they realize they've been mocked in a language they don't know. But the biker didn't look confused. He looked still, dangerously still. Khalid kept going, emboldened by the laughter. He spoke again in Arabic, louder now, playing to his audience. More words, more gestures, more contempt wrapped in a language he thought was a shield. The consultant pulled out his phone, maybe thinking this would make a good story later. Khalid was fully committed now. He leaned back against the bar, addressing his group, but speaking loud enough for the whole lounge to hear. The Arabic flowed freely, insults disguised as observations, jokes at the expense of the man who sat silent at the bar. He turned back to the Hell Angel, still smiling. He said something else in Arabic, a direct question this time, something that clearly ended with "my friend." The Hell Angel's jaw flexed beneath his beard. His hand moved, just slightly, rotating his glass 1/4 turn on the bar. Khalid's smile widened. He glanced back at his friends, preparing for another line, another punchline in a language this American biker couldn't possibly. And then the Hell Angel spoke. His voice was low, gravelly, calm, but every word was in fluent, flawless Arabic. The room didn't just go quiet. It shattered. The laughter cut off like someone had sliced a wire. The consultant's phone nearly slipped from his hand. The elegant woman's smile froze, then melted into something like horror. The older man in traditional dress went completely rigid, his face draining of color. Khalid's expression didn't move. Not at first. He just stood there, locked in place, his brain trying to catch up with what had just happened. The Hell Angel turned on his bar stool. Slowly, deliberately. He faced Khalid fully now, and for the first time, the businessman saw the intelligence in those dark eyes. The awareness. The weight of years and experience. The biker continued speaking in Arabic. Still calm. Still controlled. But now every person in that booth understood they'd made a catastrophic miscalculation. He spoke for maybe 10 seconds. No more. His tone never rose. Never sharpened. Just steady. Factual. Like he was reading items off a list. When he finished, the silence was absolute. Khalid's mouth opened. Closed. His hand came up slightly, palm out. A universal gesture of wait. Stop, let me explain. But the Hell Angel wasn't done. He switched to English. His accent was faint but present, something Middle Eastern underneath the American cadence. You said I was a stupid statue. You said Americans like me are animals without education. You said the difference between us is that you build empires while we build. What was it? Dirty motorcycles? Each statement landed like a physical blow. Khalid's face had gone pale beneath his tan. I didn't mean. The Hell Angel raised one hand. Not aggressive. Just a request for silence. Khalid stopped talking immediately. The biker picked up his glass, took a slow sip, set it down with precise control. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. That made it worse somehow. You asked what I could have been, he said. You want to know? No one answered. No one moved. I was a translator, the Hell Angel said. United States Marines. Anbar Province. 4 tours. Fallujah. Ramadi. Places you've probably never heard of and definitely never been. The bartender had stopped pretending to work. She was watching now, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. I didn't learn Arabic in a classroom, he continued. I learned it because lives depended on it. My brother's lives. I learned it from locals who trusted us and from prisoners who didn't. I learned every dialect, every accent, every insult. He paused, including the ones you just used. Khalid looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. I learned it in dusty schools before deployment, the bikers said. I learned it in blown-out buildings during firefights. I learned it at 3 in the morning when we needed information, and I was the only one who could get it. I learned it so well that your people, the ones who thought we were invaders, would sometimes forget I wasn't one of them. He turned his glass slowly on the bar. A habit, maybe, or just something to do with his hands. I came home with a pension that barely covers rent, he said. A head full of memories I can't turn off, and skills that don't translate to anything corporations want to pay for. So yeah, I ride a motorcycle. I wear this vest. I come to places like this where people mostly leave me alone. The woman in the headscarf had tears in her eyes. She wasn't laughing anymore. But you know what I didn't lose? The Hell Angel continued. His voice was still calm, still level. I didn't lose my ability to understand when someone's disrespecting me in a language they think I don't know. I didn't lose the discipline you were talking about earlier. And I sure as hell didn't lose my education. Khalid finally found words. They came out hoarse. I apologize. Truly, I was showing off. It was inappropriate. The Hell Angel looked at him for a long moment. Not angry, not forgiving either, just assessing. You were showing off, he agreed. And you made an assumption. You saw the vest, the beard, the bike outside, and you thought you knew everything about me. You thought you were better, smarter, more worldly. He stood up, not quickly, just done sitting. He was broader than he'd looked on the stool. Solid, the kind of build that came from real work, not gyms. Here's what you don't understand, the biker said. That vest, it means something. Every patch on it I earned. The people I ride with, they're veterans, tradesmen, fathers. Some of them have degrees. Some don't. But every single one of them would give you the shirt off their back if you needed it. They don't need to prove anything to anyone. He pulled a 20 from his pocket and set it on the bar. More than enough for his drink. You build empires, he said. That's fine. Good for you. But empires fall. And when they do, it's guys like me, guys you look down on, who show up to pull you out of the rubble. The Hell Angel turned toward the door. He moved with the same careful control he'd shown all night. Not rushing, not posturing, just a man who'd said what needed saying and had no interest in dragging it out. Khalid's voice stopped him. Please, let me buy you a drink. To apologize properly. The biker paused, looked back over his shoulder. I don't drink with people who don't respect me, he said simply. And then he walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Through the window, they could see him cross the parking lot to where a road king sat under a streetlight. He swung one leg over, settled into the seat like he was coming home. The engine rumbled to life. Deep, powerful, a sound that carried weight. Inside, no one spoke. The consultant slowly put his phone away. The elegant woman had removed her sunglasses and was staring at the table. The older man looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Khalid stood frozen at the bar, still holding his glass of sparkling water. The bartender picked up the 20. She looked at it, then at Khalid, then back at the bill. She folded it carefully and tucked it into her pocket. That man, she said quietly, comes in here every Thursday, never causes trouble, never asks for anything but a quiet drink and to be left alone. And in 5 years, he's tipped me better than anyone. She started wiping down the bar again. Her movements were sharp now, angry. You people come in here with your money and your fancy clothes, she continued, and you think that makes you better than everyone else. But you know what? That man out there, he's worth 10 of you. Khalid opened his mouth, closed it. There was nothing to say. Outside, the rumble of the motorcycle faded into the distance. The lounge slowly came back to life. Conversations resumed. Drinks were poured. But the energy had changed. People glanced at Khalid's group with something between curiosity and contempt. The businessman and his entourage left 20 minutes later. They didn't finish their drinks, didn't say goodbye to anyone. just gathered their things in silence and walked out. The parking lot was empty except for their rental cars. The Hell Angel was long gone. Back to whatever life he'd built for himself. Back to his brothers in leather and chrome. Back to a world where respect was earned, not assumed. Where empires didn't matter. And where a man could sit at a bar in peace, carrying the weight of languages and wars and memories, visible to anyone who cared enough to actually look. But most people didn't look. They just assumed. An assumption, as Khalid had learned, could be the most expensive mistake of all.